Dr. Maggie Placer in Louisiana, where it's got a very French influence, as your name does.
It
Are you a
does.
Louisiana born and bred lady?
I am proud to be from here
That
and glad to have explored the rest of the country, but back home now.
I bet they love having you there. You're part now of Every Cat Health Foundation, which is a nonprofit that gives grants to do research, to look into the various things that afflict and affect cats. But you also have your own mobile veterinary clinic, which probably cats appreciate more than any other species that you might come across. When did you realize the need for that? Did you work in a brick and mortar clinic and then think, you know what, these cats, A, they hate being here, and B, the people hate bringing them, and they don't even bring them because they hate it so much?
No, those are all good points. And cats we know don't like change, so being forced out of their home into a box they don't see very much, into a car, into a strange place is a lot for them. And that's before you start the exams. I've been out of school about 12 years. Half of that's been feline focused medicine. And I realized on the dog side, not every dog loves car rides and things like that. Some get
That's
nauseous.
true.
And then on the cat side, really, it's a change for them. They don't go on walks and things routinely. Some have strollers, but
Right.
or harnesses, but they don't tend to have that outside exposure. So I was able to, through some relief work, get a taste of the mobile aspect of things. And I saw it's a great go between when you always can, with good relationships, refer to a brick and mortar when it's needed. But when something can be done at home, I think that's easier on all species involved.
Yes, and encourages more vet care.
It
Because
does.
then the people think, if it's Dr. Maggie, we could always ask her in for a cup of tea.
I
So
mean,
it's
that's a
not
good
like, it's not like, oh my God, I'm going to be sitting in that waiting room and there's going to be dogs.
It's
And that's
true.
pretty harsh. When did you fall into the kind of world of Every Cat that's a mountaintop of research?
Oh yeah, it's tremendous. I saw a posting for the position about 2 years ago. So as the foundation's been growing, they found a need for someone with a DVM and of course a passion for cats and feline medicine to be a bridge in translating some of the veterinary talk to those who love cats but maybe don't have quite the same scientific backgrounds. I'm real awfully blessed, excited. It's a great opportunity to work with them, be a part of facilitating the research. So we're grateful to have specialists that weigh in on who should get our grants and things. And so while I'm
Right.
proud of my DVM, I also know that we're grateful to have these assets of people who are so strong in their individual fields. So to be the kind of in between of that is really a tremendous opportunity for me to know what's coming and to think from, okay, if I'm in their kitchen, how could this work out? So I get to have that
Right.
practical application or way to think, where could this go?
So there are really several bridges that you have to man,
Oh,
because
yeah.
one of them is, okay, we have money, we've raised money, we have grants. Now we're going to give grants, but there must be many applications, and who makes that decision is a different kind of a brain or a mindset than who then talks to the public or who then goes into a laboratory or AI or however some of this is now studied and comes up with the solution. It's a
You're
lot
so
of
right.
moving pieces, right?
No, you're so right. As I'm enjoying the position, I'm realizing it's more administrative spreadsheets, like you said,
Yes.
marketing, packaging for certain populations. So I can talk about these things all day, but it's grateful to have that guidance of those who are stronger in those fields as to where it goes. And the summary of really what we do is twice a year we receive grant applications from all over the world. So Every Cat Health Foundation is the only foundation in the world that focuses
That's
exclusively
right.
on cat research. And so I call it like a super Zoom of experts. The vets I meet, I
Hmm.
say, these are the people writing your textbooks and doing lectures at conferences.
Yes.
They very kindly volunteer their time
Wow.
to review the grants, or we assign the grant to, say, if it's a behavior study, to a behaviorist, and then another expert to just get a different pair of eyes. And anyone on this panel that's pushing about close to 25 specialists can weigh in on the grants. And so they help us decide where can we do the most good for the most cats with the funds that we have.
And it is a complicated process because there are, I'm sure, universities like the ones you went to, Purdue, for example, and many of the vet universities that have work that they would like to do. They may have, I don't know, PhD or doctoral students who say, I have a great idea, but I need money in order to do this study.
No, it's of course. And so what my kind of position does is I compile the feedback from these specialists and respond to those applicants. So while my name is at the bottom of the email, rest assured they know that it was a team of panelists that
Right.
gave my feedback. So one thing that, as I have entered this nonprofit world of granting and learned how it works, I'm proud of every cat, and that as part of every cat, we give every applicant all the feedback we can to make them stronger.
Oh,
So,
really?
so yeah, you have this panel of 25 experts who review their projects. So no one likes to be told no or not get what
That's
they want.
right.
But if you have a panel of 25 research, well-published people who give
Yes.
you their feedback when they know how to get a paper published, I hope something good still comes out of that. So while we can only fund, we can fund, we do like to say,
Right.
hey, this can only make you better. Thank you for being a part of this process. Please continue your efforts for cats.
That's nice because otherwise, just to know, you think, never mind.
Yeah,
That didn't work. I'm no good at this. I'm a loser, or they're
yeah.
losers for not knowing how great my idea is, instead of saying we're all in this together for the health of cats.
So I was
And
excited there. It was really important to me, I was proud to hear that not every maybe granting organization takes that step. Cats aren't easy. Cats are worth the effort. And so we want to
yes.
definitely encourage research for them. And we also have a certain award for new feline investigators. So to encourage those maybe starting
Oh,
out,
nice.
don't have a page of publications yet.
Right.
So we want to make sure we're encouraging everybody at every step.
And from around the world. How many countries?
Ooh, yeah, I think we're currently, the boilerplate kind of keeps changing as we grow.
Right.
I think we're saying in the 60 years of every cat's existence, $12 million has gone to feline studies. We say over 30 institutions, but I'm comfortable saying over 30 in the US alone. So I think I'm happy to at least 20, 25 different countries, and every year it's expanding. We just funded something in Thailand. So we
Nice.
applications from Uganda. So cats are
That's
cats.
so cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I found with Cat Film Festival, filmmakers from really around the world, and you think, wow, there's people looking after cats, being inspired by cats, being amused and lobbying on behalf of cats. All the kind of obvious countries, whether it's Greece or
Yeah.
Mexico, so many countries where cats are ubiquitous and everywhere. Turkey, a lot of
Hmm.
countries, and I'm sure they come to you with an idea
Yeah.
of research that needs to be done on particular health issues. So one of the ones that you funded and had a lot of there's going to be a lot of repercussions, you think, or you hope, for human health is the one on mammary cancer, breast cancer in cats. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So we're very excited to have been a part of this publication in Science, just a prominent science journal that
Right?
has a lot of respect from anyone involved in the field, from whatever direction, veterinary, human medicine, just an impressive place to get attention. But
Yes.
essentially, the title is The Oncogenome of the Domestic Cat. But essentially, we can just say, so they were looking at genetics of cats, particularly in cats where they had cancer. So they had 500 tissue samples. So rest assured, cats are not affected. These are
Right.
tissue samples that were submitted. And so to really better understand those 500 cancer samples, they also looked at healthy tissues. How does that compare to the changes we saw? In those, say, 500 samples, which were from 6 different countries. So this is a study
Wow.
involving, yeah, collaboration from 8 different countries. When you look at the institutions involved, they were able to really say, okay, what changes do we see in the genes they looked at 13 different cancers in cats. And essentially, we could go through a lot of them you'll hear on the human side as well. Cancer of the gallbladder, mast cell tumors, squamous cell carcinoma of the skin or the mouth, brain cancers, lung cancer, lymphoma. A lot of cat owners have heard of that cancer in
Yes.
their cats. Mammary cancer, we're going to kind of hit on more so coming up.
Right.
Bone cancer, and then oral squamous cell carcinoma
Right.
is one that hits cats hard, hits people, but
Yeah.
I don't wish it on any species, period. In
Yes.
cats, we really are limited with what we can do for them. And so in looking at the changes in these tissues, in those different cancer types, I'll take a quick step back. It's interesting.
Okay.
Some might say, why aren't we looking at tissue from a rodent or something? They make an
Okay.
interesting point that cats and dogs kind of share our environment. So
That's right.
they're around UV light, they're around cigarette smoke, and they also get some non-cancer diseases that we get, like diabetes, heart disease. So it kind of makes them a little closer to us in certain ways for study. So they're looking at these cancer samples, the genetics within the changes, and what can we learn from them? How do they compare to the human side? I mentioned dogs and that this work had been done in dogs and resulted in some human cancer treatments being used for specifically mast cell tumors in dogs. So looking at the comparison, of course, helps the human side to say, okay, they're alike in these ways. Could their drugs help us? And at least one drug has made its way to the canine world through, is it safe to give them? What form can we give
Right,
them? So the hope is that we can, in this comparison, 14% of the changes they saw in the cancer samples do show promise that they could respond to current human treatments. Now, again,
wow,
that takes the there's cost, but there's also how do you get it in the cat? Is it safe to give it in
right.
the cat? So basically, we saw where things match up, where the changes in the cat cancer matches the human cancer. Some of their treatments could be used to help in those feline cancers. Mammary cancer is coming to the forefront because we saw the most genetic changes in cats in that specific cancer. So it's one that these are things to watch. These are little proteins to target. They're also potentially another important aspect of the study was the some of these changes, 19% of the normal tissues showed changes and they're supposed to be normal, meaning could we
Right,
have something to watch in these cats? Just like if your grandmother had breast cancer, you might watch yourself more
right,
closely. Could
right,
we in these cats say maybe twice a year checks? Maybe the owner learns how to palpate the memory chain.
right.
It's helping cats in multiple ways, how to screen them, how to help them. And then in the human world, say, hey, maybe look at this gene because we're seeing a match when we look at human samples and the cat samples.
And there was a match. You could see, they could see, the researchers could see a match in changes in what would be normal tissue in a
Right.
cat that were
So
predictors the cat would get mammary cancer.
So right now they did in what was supposed to be the normal, perfectly healthy tissues, they
Yeah,
saw some changes that could say, hey, this is a cat we should watch closely. So it leads to a potential screen for cats, a potential way to test a drug on feline tissues that may benefit the human side, and for cats that are diagnosed with mammary cancer, could some treatments that work on the human side make their way to the feline world? That would be great. Mammary cancer is usually pretty malignant and aggressive in cats.
yes.
I've removed a chain of their mammary glands. It's an extensive surgery and it's also often late when we catch it sometimes. So it's bad for them. So anything we could do or at least have a start of working towards would be great.
So my understanding was that mammary cancer is the number one cancer in cats. Is that true?
Yeah,
Most
I would say
frequent?
it's high in unspayed cats. It's one of the reasons we recommend having it
Ah,
fixed if there some breeders may breed their cats, but we worry about mammary cancer in cats. And dogs, I would say it's 50-50 if they have mammary cancer, if it's going to be benign or malignant. In cats, sorry, my cat Bobby's right here.
I was wondering. I thought this woman has
She's got
got
a
a
bump
cat.
tail.
She's
Yeah,
got
she's
a
got a
cat.
bump
Hi,
tail.
Bobby.
Hey, Bobs. But in cats, mammary cancer is usually always malignant. So it is
Yes.
one that, yeah.
And then, as a vet, talk about the physical removal of a whole chain of mammary glands. That on a cat who has X number of nipples, each one has a mammary gland. And is it right? Is it true that when one is malignant, because the person has noticed it's basically swollen, seeming like a tumor, if you will, that the whole line of them has to be removed?
And oftentimes you are, because it makes sense to probably most of us, by the time you're feeling a change in one mammary gland, there's a microscopic change somewhere else. So then we're looking at the lymph nodes that drain to the particular areas. And oftentimes, so not only one side has to be removed, but also the other. So
Yes.
again, don't need a DVM just to think about this. Even a maybe overweight cat, there's maybe some layers of fat there, but it doesn't mean they
Yeah.
have more skin to close. So it's a very intense surgery, and especially if you're doing one chain and then the other, let alone removing a lymph node, you're looking at multiple anesthesia, of course, the cost, of course, the recovery from that. And surgery is not always curative. So it's one that not only are we looking for a way around surgery, that may never be the case, that we have to remove what has to be removed, but could there be other ways to, by the time we find it, by the time the owner feels it, what could there be something else that could be done in addition to surgery, or perhaps maybe that would limit the extent of surgery?
That's interesting because so I thought that removing all the mammary chain, now the cat is cured. You're saying it's not curative at all because what if it's found late, which is probably
Or if
is
it's
late
spread to
if you
lymph
can already
nodes and
feel it.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. So by using potentially a chemo drug for people, I'm guessing we're saying chemo drugs, you would have to figure out which chemo drug, of which there's many for women depending on the kind of breast cancer, and then
Right.
the dose, and then how does the cat tolerate it? And then does it work? Which you
Right.
don't know until you try it on a lot
Sure.
of cats, which is, I think, where Every Cat Health Foundation comes in. It's
Yeah.
all very
So,
well to say, oh, this could be great, but somebody has to fund the looking at it.
oh, you're
And
so
it's
right. So while,
complex.
no, you're so right. So while some that it was cited on the dog side, great for dogs, we wish them every health and happiness. On the human side, I imagine some studies maybe were done in the rodent populations for the drug to get to the point to be used in humans. So this baseline work had to be done to say, okay, in cats, mammary cancer, these genes change. So then we can say, thank you, human world, for developing these drugs that, hey, if they have the same changes in the genetics, maybe it is worth the studies to look at how that drug compound may affect cats. Maybe it was done in a similar species to develop it for the human side. So it's really that kind of a one medicine sharing because, yeah, a cardiologist we work with was recently saying CM, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, heart disease in
Right.
cats is more common in cats than in humans. I think it was the movie What a Man Called Otto with Tom Hanks.
Yes.
The human has that heart disease.
Yes.
But what he just said something that I found very compelling, Dr. Joshua Stern. He said, if you have a loved one with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, basically thank Every Cat Health Foundation because of the
Oh,
research done that condition. Does the condition affects, I think, 1 in 7 cats in their lifetime. It affects maybe 250 to 500 people, he said. But the point is, if that work wasn't done for cats, there's currently
yeah.
2 drugs on the market. You'll see the commercials that are because of the work that was done in cats. So it's great
Oh,
to, yeah,
nice.
help our cats.
I had Heather Davis from Felsian, one of those drugs
Yeah,
on the show on Cat Chat talking
there you
about it.
go.
I
So
think she was on this show as well, just because it was such a breakthrough. This was a death sentence for a lot of cats. It wasn't even all that rare. And for
right.
there to be a drug was amazing. One of the things that my understanding is about human development of drugs for human cancer, it's not done on rodents anymore, Maggie. My
Oh,
understanding
good.
is it's done on people.
Okay,
And
I imagine that, yeah,
if you
there's,
read the book The Emperor of All Maladies, which is the
yeah, the first
fascinating,
one to recommend that one, yeah.
yeah, the I don't know, Nobel, Pulitzer, every prize that should be won. It
Mhm.
was a nonfiction book, as if cancer was had its biography written. And having had a mother who died young from breast cancer, I could understand in reading it, oh my God, everything done to her. She was a guinea pig. Every single woman in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, even today, and men, depending on the cancer, they're all guinea pigs. They're in trials that are paid for by either a drug company or a nonprofit like Every Cat, but obviously not. Every Cat doesn't fund human research. But everybody participating is a guinea pig for the future. And that's true of the cats and the researchers that are working all the time with your funding.
Yeah, no, you make a good point. And so they can consent through these trials, and you often try
Yes,
to because what could extend your life. So I would sign up myself. And then in the animal world, these studies or similar studies can be done from tissues that are collected,
yes.
tissues, the term organoids and tumoroids, so basically growing more tumors to work
Oh,
with
that's interesting.
versus having to always say harvest or wait for donated. So yeah, thank you for reminding me that human people can consent to things to be done. They have that kind of wherewithal, whereas with animals, we just have that we're making decisions for them sometimes.
That's
So with
right.
research, we always want to make sure that we keep the cats as happy as you can keep a cat.
As comfortable as possible
Yeah,
since they
yeah,
haven't agreed to it. But the fact is that whether it helps the individual cats who might be treated with these drugs, once the ones are identified that would help with particularly mammary cancer, but maybe other feline cancers, those cats might be helped. Maybe their life will be extended by weeks or months or even years, but they are definitely helping the cats of the future. Because everything that doesn't work, you say, okay, no, that was a miss, but the next one's a hit.
right.
Wow, we knocked that cancer out. But unless you've funded the research for that particular project,
Yeah,
there's no way of knowing.
yeah. Someone has to, and I believe out of these 8 institutions across the world, we now have, say, a list of avenues to go down where there was no
Yes,
list. So the list had to be made. So mammary cancer, of course, with the human side. Also, the study showed cutaneous, so mast cell tumors of the skin, showed a lot of changes there that maybe the veterinary world can pursue for cats. Interesting, of the 13 tumor types they studied, colorectal cancer in cats showed less genetic changes. So all the things that maybe aren't rising to the top of this conversation is still groundwork laid for those cancers.
That's right.
Cats, yeah.
So, on the one hand, the cats may or may not, depending on more research, benefit from drugs that have been developed for humans, from humans being in trials, research basically,
Wow.
is
Yes.
ongoing research.
Yeah.
And it may be that research being done on the cat tissue, not necessarily on the physical cats, because now their tissue is in a tissue bank
Mhm.
of cancer, which is always the desire to know early. Is there something you can do proactively? Because the horribleness of a lot of cancer is, oh, I feel it. Either it's a tumor or a growth or something distorted, or I'm
Mhm.
really not feeling well and haven't been for a while. I guess I'll go find out. At which point, now it's spread.
Again, yeah,
So
that's
once
like
it's
feeling the memory thing.
metastasized, it's curtains on some level. But what if you could catch it early? I mean, that's the
Sure.
whole point about all the cancer screening we do for humans. And you're saying that maybe this research will have a cancer screening for cats.
Yeah, so every cat's been really behind the study of genetics in cats for whatever reason to find predispositions to whatever
Yes,
diseases. And so, again, just cats being cats and our effort to keep them as happy as possible, if things could be learned non-invasively, and again, as
right.
much as we maybe be bonded or close to our cats, they really can't tell us if they feel a bump. So it's really like how can we not stress them, but learn from them, again, going to their house and swabbing their
Right.
mouth. So if it's, again, if we can learn from non-invasive studies, to learn more about them, to help them, wonderful. And if it helps other species, again, the human side coming to us, it's really exciting. It's
It
exciting.
is. It really is that it's a living example of one medicine
Yep.
or one health, whatever that phrase is. It
Yeah,
does benefit both sides of the species barrier,
yeah,
which for many people doesn't feel like a barrier. We feel
true.
very connected. Just a couple of words about mouth cancer, since you are still doing some of your mobile work with cats. Do you find terrible surprises because cats mask their pain so well, and the oral cancer they have is undoubtedly very painful and interferes with eating or even swallowing, but their owners are unaware, and even if they were aware, I don't know anybody whose cat lets them happily open their mouth and look, and
Yeah,
they don't know what to look for anyway.
yeah.
So do you feel that's one of the ones that needs a lot more attention?
It's a great point. I think owners are eager to educate themselves. There's a lot of good resources. So every cat works closely with the Feline Veterinary Medical Association.
Yes.
And they have catfriendly.com is a great website from
Right.
VMA for owners. So I think people are into their cats. There's good sources out there. So just on the topic of dental care, again, not easy to get in a cat's mouth. I
That's
was
right.
recently listening to a dental specialist talk about on the idea of toothbrushing, maybe start with something good, like a tasty flavor, tuna juice or something, just to get in the mouth if you're going to pursue that.
Yes.
But to your point, yes, it's not an area you really touch affectionately. So I do think owners are more tuned into is their cat maybe not eating as much, steps that maybe
Right.
further down the road, drooling.
Yes.
Some cats do love to rub their face on you. Has that declined? So in having people more zoned in at their cat in entirety and having different ways to, if you like a mobile vet or in some states, telemedicine's coming, encouraging, or just any avenue where someone just feels comfortable to ask a question or even Google a question and find a good resource. There's a way to get there sooner to help these cats who, you're right, it's their nature to hide things. So they're prey and they're predators. So
Yes.
it's their nature to hide things. But if we can watch them more closely with how they're eating, if they're eating, in the ways we do touch their mouth, if they're in any way different, change in what they are preferring to eat, softer food versus hard food. So
Right.
in a mysterious species, it's an extra mysterious area, but I do feel like we're more tuned in, but it is tragic for those cats that have owners and cats who've experienced it. So we're coming at it. I think it's safe to say every grant cycle, we have applications targeting those cancers, those
Nice.
things that linger, like the gingivostomatitis in those
Yes.
cats. So we're not, again, it's tough to look at these great proposals and say, okay, where can we do the most good for the most cats? Because it may not be the most common disease, but man, it's
It's harsh.
sometimes fatal for those that have it. So
Yes.
we always keep that in mind.
What Every Cat Health Foundation's doing is amazing, and I love that you're part of it, and yet you still have your hand in the community in Fayetteville, Louisiana. I think it's great. Maggie Placer, thank you so much for being here, and
Yeah.
thank you for being part of such a great organization.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for your support.